What's up, guys, and welcome back into Breaking Boards. In today's episode, we're going to break down the two-game main slate over on DraftKings to close out week number 4. We have the New York Jets traveling to take on the Miami Dolphins, and we have the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to take on the Denver Broncos. Glad you all could join me for the video. Been a great week in week number 4, up about 4 figures for the week, but super excited to see the comments that you guys are winning. I saw someone comment they won $450. Saw that someone took down a GPP using the showdown breakdown for last Monday night's game. So super excited for you guys. Glad that I can help you all win some cash and take down some contests over on DraftKings. But without further ado, we're going to break into the player-by-player breakdown for Monday night's two-game contest. Again, glad you all could join me. Glad you all could be here. And let's jump into the breakdown for Monday night. Before we jump into the player-by-player breakdown, I always like to take a 30,000-foot view of the slate and what I'm seeing. As far as builds, for this type of slate, I think that you can take all of your preset groups and ideas that you have about DFS. You can throw all that out the window for a two-game slate. Anything's in play. You can have your quarterback versus your defense. You can have 2 running backs from the same team. You can have 2 tight ends from the same team. You can have tight end in the flex. You can leave salary on the board. I mean, anything's on the table. You can get as wild as you like. The only thing that I'll mention is be sure that you are fitting those type of builds. If you're going to leave salary on the table, keep in mind that the size of the field of the contest that you're playing is going to indicate how much salary you should leave on the table. For instance, if you're playing in a 100 entry field, you don't want to leave more than $300-$600 on the table if you're looking to get different. In most of my 100 team contest, I'll look to spend most of my salary. If you're in a 1,000-person field, you can start to back off that a little bit more. Maybe you go to 49.4 and you leave the full 600 on there. If you're in a 5,000 entry tournament, you can go down to 49K. If you're in the 150 max, so long as your build makes sense and you're telling a story, I don't mind leaving any amount on the table for Monday Night Football, especially given these contests here. It looks like the NFL said, we were given some pretty crappy showdown contest over the last few seasons. It looked like the NFL just said, you know what, we'll give you 2 crappy ones on the same night, and you guys can decide which one you want to watch. So I think that's what's going on here. I do think there's some spots we can take advantage of. And then before we get into the player breakdown, if I can spit out the words before we get into that, I will say that for this particular slate, my favorite build is going to be Onslaught. I think you can build in 3 different ways, in my opinion. You can log in, you can run your sims, you can do your optimizer, you can take whatever it gives you, you can spit those into your 150 maxes, your single entries, whatever the case is. That is not how I would approach this slate. From my opinion, I think that this slate sets up well for looking at complete onslaughts, taking 4 players from the same team and stacking with your quarterback and then running back on the other side with 2. And that either one of these games could shoot out. So I'll mix and match onslaught stacks, and we'll talk about that as we work our way throughout the video. And I'll give you guys some ideas of where I'm going to be headed on Monday, but I'm going to be building, like I said, predominantly onslaughts, given that I don't think both of these games are both these games shoot out. I think we're probably looking at, I think both of the implied totals for these games are under 45. So I think we're probably looking at 2 games that finish somewhere between 36 and 44 points. So I'm going to build that in that manner. The 4th way that you can consider building is trying to get the perfect lineup. And I think that if you're playing in the, millionaire contest or 500K, whatever it is over on DraftKings up top for their flagship, you're going to need essentially the nuts to take down Monday night's contest. So if you're building for a huge contest, I'll have some onslaught builds. I'll also have some builds where I'm trying to get the perfect run out. If I'm in a smaller field, I'm predominantly going to be going onslaught, given that I don't think you'll have to be perfect in your fields where you're playing against 500 teams or less. So I do think there's some ways that we can get different. We'll talk about those here in a second. But taking a look first here at the New York Jets and taking a look at the QB position, we have Justin Fields here up top. Fields is in a great spot here against the second best matchup on the board for QBs for 2025. This is a Miami team that is essentially like a FedEx matchup. They get beat through the air and on the ground. However you want to deliver it, it's being delivered. They're giving up 25 plus fantasy points per game to the QB position throughout their 3 games to start off 2025. This defense just hasn't looked good at all. I do think this is a ceiling spot for Fields. I'll look to be significantly over the field, and I typically don't onslaught a player like Fields, but in this particular matchup, I will. And I will have Justin Fields as a core play for me on Monday night. If I have Fields up top, my favorite builds would be pairing him up with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Mason Taylor. This would be my primary build if I'm looking to get perfect in the 150 contest. If I'm looking to build for a smaller field and I'm looking to build an onslaught, I don't mind adding Braylon Allen, Reynolds, Lazard, Tyler Johnson. You can even think about Smith here, or you could look at Ruckert. So if I'm building an onslaught with Fields, predominantly these 4 guys will be in the lineup, and then I'll look to add one more of the guys we just talked about along with that Fields lineup. So for larger field contests where I'm trying to get perfect, I'll go with Fields and a 3-man additionally with Fields. And then if I'm looking to onslaught in small fields, I don't mind getting to that 5th jet on those teams. So this would be my primary stack here for New York for Monday night. As we take a look specifically at the running back position, you have Breece Hall, you have Braylon Allen, and you also have Isaiah Davis. Davis is going to be a dart throw for me in a large field contest, not someone that I'm going to try to get over the field on at all. Breece Hall at 5,700. He's in a great matchup. Miami's given up the 6th most fantasy points per game to the running back position to start off 2025. They have limited touchdowns overall, but they are giving up a ton of yards to the running back position. And in my opinion, that fits Breece Hall's setup and his game style more than it does Braylon Allen. So I'll look to be over the field on Breece Hall, given that the price difference is $500 between the two. And for me, Braylon Allen's just going to be someone that I mix and match in. I'm viewing him more along the lines of the dart throw in the larger field GPP. Won't have a lot of him in smaller field contests, as I much prefer Breece Hall for Monday night's contest. If we take a look at the wide receiver position, I mean, this is pretty much like a one-man crew here, but we have, a few guys that we could take a look at. You have Garrett Wilson, you have Josh Reynolds, you have Alan Lazard, you have Tyler Johnson, and you have, I believe is it Anias Smith or Arian Smith? I know there's 2 of the Arian Smith. I think a nice place for the Eagles. But as we look down the wide receiver position here for the Jets, you have Garrett Wilson at 6,200. This is kind of a mid matchup for the wide receivers going against Miami. But Garrett Wilson is just absolute clear number 1 for the Jets. He's played nearly 100% of snaps this year, which is just insane in 2025. He's seen 5 times the amount of targets as the wide receiver 2. I mean, he's had 30 targets on the season, and the wide receiver 2, I believe, is Tyler Johnson at 6 targets. And Garrett Wilson is going to be a core play for me on Monday night. And as we talk about Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds, all those guys are priced between 3,400 and 3,000, and all those guys will be dart throws for me on Monday night, and none of those guys will be core plays. But like we talked about earlier, don't mind mixing them in the onslaught fields stacks. Flipping over to the tight end position, we have Mason Taylor and we have Jeremy Ruckert. Mason Taylor here, at $2,700 and a great matchup. Miami's given up the 2nd best fantasy points per game to the tight end position in 2025. He's seen 3 times the amount of targets as Ruckert, and with a $200 salary difference for Monday night. Taylor's seen 9 targets for the year, and Ruckert's seen 3. Taylor's going to be a core play for me here. I think this is, again, like we talked about earlier, this is a slate where getting 2 tight ends in your build and having a tight end in the flex is viable, depending on if you're building for the correct contest and you're building in the correct way. So I don't mind getting Taylor in here as a core play. And then Ruckert's going to be a dart throw for me in GPP, someone that I'll look to mix and match in, predominantly in those onslaught stacks that we talked about earlier. As we clear this out, we flip over to the Miami side. Up top, you have Tua Tagovailoa. Almost the same type of scenario here with Tua as with Justin Fields. Tua would be my 2nd favorite quarterback on the board tonight. If I were going to build Tua lineups, I will build much in the same way as I did with Fields. If I'm looking to get two up top, my favorite start would be this four-man here. I would look to get to Tua, A-Chain, Hill, and Washington. And then you can also add in the onslaught build, you could add in Ollie Gordon. You could add in Waddle, Nick Westbrook-Akine. You could add in Waller, who's actually going to play football tonight, it looks like, Julian Hill, or Tanner Connor. But this would be my predominant build here for Miami if I'm building to try to be perfect in those large field contests. If I'm building for an onslaught build, again, those guys we just mentioned can be paired in as a fifth option as well. Going back up top here with Tua, this is the ninth best matchup on the board at $5,200. Typically, Tua and this Miami offense is better at home early season. So he'll be a core play for me here tonight. And again, my second favorite QB on the board for Monday Night Football for this two-game slate. As we flip over to the running back position, we have Devon A-Chain. We have Ollie Gordon, and to a lesser extent, we have Jalen Wright, who was healthy but did not see the field in last week's contest. For me, Devon A-Chain at $7,000. Kind of a mid matchup here, but he's averaging more than 20 fantasy points per game with Tua at the helm. And in the games that Tua has started and finished, he's just been a superstar RB1. So Devon A-Chain is kind of a no-brainer here for me. He'll be a core play, someone I'm over the field on, and I think he'll be highly, highly owned in Monday night's contest, so won't look to get away from him much. You can pair alongside him Ollie Gordon. Again, we talked about those rules earlier. Don't have any for Monday night. Just kind of pay attention to what you're doing for the contest you're entering. But for Ollie Gordon, that's someone that he's pretty much a dart throw for me in large field contest, but don't mind mixing him in as well at 4,500. I just think there's some better options if you're looking to save some salary other than Ollie Gordon at 4,500. Flipping over to the wide receiver position, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, and then to a lesser extent, Westbrook-Akine and Eskridge. Westbrook-Akine and Eskridge will be mixed in those larger field contests as dart throws. Jalen Waddle's a bit priced up here for me compared to the field, but going to be someone that I look to be about the field on. Waddle's, just a kind of a fine play in the spot. He would be my third favorite wide receiver for Miami, and again, I'll be about the field on him. Tyreek Hill here, $6,500 in the ninth best matchup for wide receivers. I feel like this skill set matches up well for him in this matchup, in that I don't think that he gets sauced from Sauce Gardner, right? I think that he will see some Sauce Gardner throughout the game, but I think that Sauce may play on Jalen Waddle, given that Sauce's defensive style kind of fits against Jalen Waddle more than it fits against Tyreek Hill. And they may look to bracket coverage Tyreek and put two men on him. But Tyreek and his speed, and he has kind of a feel for the zone where he can just kind of find those holes and sit down, which also kind of leads to me liking Malik Washington more. So preferred ranking order for wide receivers for Miami would be Hill, Washington, Waddle, Westbrook-Akine, Eskridge. I think Tyreek is obviously the clear number one on the team here as well. And Tyreek will be a core play for me on Monday night. And then Malik Washington at $3,500. I just prefer him significantly to the wide receivers that we talked about over on the Jets side in the same price range, in that 35 to 3,000 range. I much prefer Malik Washington. This guy has some skill. He's going to have an opportunity to break out. If this team were to trade Tyreek Hill, Malik Washington would become a fringe or wide receiver 3 for me. So like this guy a lot. Great skill set. I think he's got a future here in the league. And at 3,500, he'll be a core play for me, a salary-saving core play for me on Monday night. Westbrook-Akine and Eskridge, again, we talked about those guys going to be dart throws for me on Monday. Flipping over to the tight end position for Miami, we have Darren Waller playing his first football game in like 67 years, and we have Julian Hill, and we have Tanner Connor. I can make this quick for you guys. All these guys are dart throws, large field contest, and then also I would mix them in my onslaught builds, but not anybody that I'm going to look to be over the field on at all for Monday night. Flipping over to game number 2 and looking at the QB position, we have up top Jake Browning filling in for Joe Burrow, still out, going to be out for a while. If I'm building four mans with Jake Browning would be my QB number 4 on the slate if we're putting these guys in order. Looking to build a stack here with, Jake Browning. Again, I'll be building so many lineups. I'll have some of every one of these guys, but I would put Browning with Chase Brown, I would put him with Jamar Chase, and I would pair him with Mike Gesicki. If you're looking to get onslaught builds, you can include Samaje Perine or Taj Brooks. You can also include T. Higgins, Yoshi Voss, Michael Tinsley, and then you can also include Sample or Hudson. I think a sneaky one would be putting Sample in the flex, but that would be my predominant build for trying to get perfect with the Jake Browning build. And then if you're onslaughting the guys we just talked about as well. And then looking again here at Browning, going up against this Denver team who may have the best defense in football. This is going to be the 6th toughest matchup on paper for Jake Browning. Again, we just talked about, this might be the best team in football with Patrick Surtain and those guys roaming around in that secondary. He would be, again, my 4th ranked QB on the slate by quite a wide margin for Jake Browning, and he's priced up. He's more expensive than Justin Fields, and I just can't logically make any sense out of that, which will obviously drop his ownership, but at the same time, that drop in ownership is warranted in my opinion for Monday night. And then looking at the running back position here, you have Chase Brown, you have Samaje Perine, and to a lesser extent, you have Taj Brooks. Chase Brown for me here, kind of a mid matchup at 6,600. His price currently is just greater than his production has been so far in the season through 3 games. But this is a 2-game slate. You have some options on the slate that aren't going to feel great putting them in your lineup over Chase Brown. But I do think in larger field contests, you can consider playing back at running backs. And to this point in the season, Chase Brown has not put up more production than those guys. He's not exactly had a bunch of breakouts here in 2025. So don't mind looking at him here at 6,600, but someone I'll try to be about the field on, or maybe a little under the field on. Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks are both dart throwers for me, guys that you can get into your lineups if you'd like, but not priorities for me. And I would mix them in onslaught builds where I have Cincinnati taking down Denver, but I don't think that happens on Monday. Flipping over to the wide receiver position for Cincinnati, you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you have Andre Yoshivas, and then wide receiver 4 is actually been Mitchell Tinsley. Tinsley is going to be a dart throw in a huge contest along with Yoshivas. I do think that T. Higgins at 5,600, I think he's priced for the matchup because I think that he's going to seize Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain is 6'2", T. Higgins is 6'4". Riley Moss, the cornerback number 2 for Denver, is 6 foot tall, and Jamar Chase is 6 foot tall. So if you were to put Riley on T. Higgins, you're going to have a severe mismatch. I think it's almost like the Tyreek Hill thing that we talked about last time. I think Surtain is going to see one-on-one versus Higgins, and I think they bracket Riley Moss and a safety over Jamar Chase. Same thing with Jamar Chase. Maybe the best wide receiver in football, if not definitely in the top 5, right? And I think that he can obviously break through, find those holes in the zone, and take advantage of that. So my preferred play here at the wide receiver position in this matchup, which is kind of a mid matchup going against this tough Denver defense, would be Jamar Chase from the Cincinnati side. I think he's just the best player on the slate altogether. I do think, again, he avoids Patrick Surtain, or at least Surtain most of the time. And I think that he would be my preferred play at the wide receiver position for the Cincinnati side. So Jamar Chase would be a core play for me on Monday. Flipping over to the tight end position, we have Mike Gesicki, we have Drew Sample, and we have Tanner Hudson. Gesicki is a great play here for me. He's going to be a core play. Tougher matchup here. Kind of a mix and match spot, honestly, with the Cincinnati tight ends. But I actually view Mike Gesicki and Drew Sample about the same. Sample's actually out-snapped Gesicki to start the year. So if you want to put, if you have a lineup you love with Gesicki and you want to switch it out to Drew Sample, don't mind that at all. But I view those guys about the same, and I'll look to be about the field on Sample and Gesicki, and then I'll look to mix and match in Tanner Hudson in those onslaught builds that we talked about before. And then flipping over to the Denver side, up top you have Bo Nix. If I'm building a Bo Nix onslaught, I would pick one of the 2 running backs. Okay, so one of these 2 guys. For now, we'll put in J.K. Dobbins. And then I would choose one of these 2 guys, Cortland Sutton or Troy Franklin. And then I would also look to max one of these tight ends as well. For now, we'll put in Evan Ingram. This would be my preferred 4-man build if I'm looking to get perfect. If you're looking to onslaught, you can include Harvey, Batty, Franklin, Mims, Sherfield, Pat Bryant. You can also get Trotman or Lucas Kroll in there as well. So plenty of options there if you're looking to build a 5-man stack with Denver. But specifically talking about Bo Nix, it's kind of a mid matchup here at 6K. Third favorite QB on the slate behind Fields and Tua. We'll have some Denver stacks for this slate, and that Denver can always pop off. And I do think he's a fringe core play for me at the QB position for Monday night. Looking over at the running back position for Denver, we have J.K. Dobbins, we have R.J. Harvey, and then we have Tyler Batty. Batty would be or Bidet. I wish he'd just go by Batty. He's going to be a dart throw for me in larger field contest or in the onslaught builds, as we talked about before. For J.K. Dobbins, second best matchup on the board. Cincinnati has been absolutely torched by running backs in 2025, and J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey will be significant core plays for me on Monday night. Do not mind getting them in the same lineup at all. I think R.J. Harvey is going to be my pick to click as like a sneaky breakout game here against Cincinnati. Would not surprise me if he ends up close to 100 yards and a touchdown. My favorite play on the night, I'll look to bet some ladders on R.J. Harvey as well. 99.9% of the time when Sean Payton speaks about his running back room, he is lying. He did talk up R.J. Harvey, which makes me pull back the reins a little bit, but screw it, man. I've been burned before. What's one more time? I am going to look to ladder up some props on R.J. Harvey. If you have any questions about what props I'm going to bet, drop those into the comment, and I will answer those before we head into Monday Night Football. As we head over to the wide receiver position for the Denver Broncos, we have Courtland Sutton, we have Troy Franklin, we have Marvin Mims, and to a lesser extent, we have Sherfield and Pat Bryant. Sherfield and Bryant, large field dart throws or onslaught builds only for me. As we look at the rest of these receivers, you have Courtland Sutton here at 6,100, kind of a mid matchup. I'll match the field or be slightly over the field on Sutton. Do prefer him a little bit over a guy like T. Higgins that we talked about earlier, and Courtland Sutton would be a core play for me on Monday night. Troy Franklin at 4,100 is seeing a ton of targets and a ton of snap share. At 4,100, he's going to be a core play for me as a salary saver. Very solid option here in Marvin Mims. He would be my second favorite of the 3,000 range salary savers at the wide receiver position. So it would be Malik Washington, Marvin Mims, and then those guys we talked about earlier. So don't mind getting to Mims as well. And then we just talked about Sherfield and Pat Bryant being dart throws in large field GPPs as well. And then much like Cincinnati, you have Evan Ingram, Adam Trotman, and Lucas Kroll. I view Evan Ingram the same as I view Mike Gesicki. I view Trotman the same as I view Drew Sample. And I view Lucas Kroll the same as I view Tanner Hudson. Hudson would be, like we talked about earlier, Kroll would be like Hudson in that he would be onslaught builds for Denver 5-mans. Kind of the same idea with Trotman. And then I don't mind mixing Evan Ingram in my 4-man stacks with Bo Nix. And that's going to do it for Monday Night Football's 2-game breakdown of the main slate. Again, I'm super excited. And honestly, I won around 2,500 this weekend. And that's really not even what's on my mind, man. Like, when I see these comments that guys are taking down tournaments, and I believe it's a lady that took down $450 profit on Sunday, from watching my video, that's a cool thing, man. That's a cool thing. I'm so happy for you guys. Blessed to have you here along with me for this journey. Again, I appreciate you being here. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to continue to break this thing down every slate throughout the NFL season. Super glad to have you guys here, and hopefully you can take down something on Monday Night Football. Hope you have a good day and take something down large for Monday night, and we'll see you guys next time.